Hello, Right for Freedom community. I welcome you, and again, my name is Jerry Hudson, and welcome you to the Right for Freedom writing channel. We're going to have a lot of audio. We actually are also going to have a lot of video. There's going to be really a whole lot of information out here. And today, what we're going to do is start to talk about building characters. While you are writing, there's going to be a lot of time in which you're going to be using your mind's eye in order to build characters. And so thinking about that, what are some of the tricks or trades or tricks of the tool that should be used in order to build those characters? And I say that one of the ways to build a character is that instead of thinking about people as personalities, think about the pathology of a person. So very many times, if you think in limited views of personality, it doesn't give you the opportunity to think of in terms of the pathology of a thing. And in writing, it is very important that though you may start at the surface, what you want to do is you want your writing to take a deeper look. You want there to be a sub-story. So how do you do this in terms of developing characters? And I believe one of the tricks that I believe is that you actually follow the pathology and not the person. When you start talking about people, then I think that it limits your thoughts, because when you start building a story and you start thinking about people, that limits you, because you start thinking about their sex, are they male or female? You start thinking about their height. You start thinking about things like their race, their nationality, where they come from. But if you think in terms of a pathology, then that opens up all kinds of opportunity for storytelling. It opens up the mind to say, okay, how does this person think, and where is it that this person is going in terms of their thinking? And so today, what we're going to get through today's video is we're going to talk about the pathology. Because we want to make these stories very interesting, so we're going to be looking to develop characters that have all kinds of wild personalities. And so one of the wildest of all personalities I decided to start with was the narcissist. Not just the narcissist, but the malignant narcissist. That's right, the malignant narcissist. How many of you have even heard that term? So I'm going to do some reading here about narcissism and malignant narcissists as you build your stories and you think about, and this is actually going to be part one of the story, because in part two of the story, I'm going to actually tell you about how to draw from people that you know that are malignant narcissists. I certainly know for sure, one for sure, and maybe another one. But this YouTube channel isn't about people. Like I said, it's about a pathology. And so I'm going to read really, I'm going to go through what they have coined malignant narcissism is most likely, the diagnosis of the person that I'm going to be reading about here. With all of the information available about narcissism and narcissistic personalities, chances are you've heard the term malignant narcissist. But exactly what does the term mean, and why a certain kind of narcissism warrants such a special descriptor is not very clear to many. And for the most part, it does acknowledge that it's kind of hard to imagine that any kind of narcissism is completely benign. It's worth understanding why a particular brand, what they're calling brand of narcissism, is malignant, and it is cause for grave concern whenever it's present in any significant degree. See what I'm saying? When you start writing your story about a malignant narcissist, your story can take on a whole different, it can go deeper. It can take on some really interesting twists and turns, and makes me think right now about a malignant narcissist in a show that I really liked. Would have been 50 Cent himself writing about himself in Power, where he actually kills his own son, right? That's just one of the things he did. But that would be a narcissistic personality, a malignant narcissist. The term narcissism has been around for a long time, and it is derived, you know, from the story, one of the stories of a man, strikingly handsome and gifted young man, and who obviously knew that. And according to the story, he fell in love with the reflection of himself in the mirror. And so we all know narcissists as people who fall in love with themselves. A narcissist has found that he ever dreamed of the perfect. He found himself to be perfect. Narcissism is therefore not a healthy love of self that leads to adaptive self-protection and care, but rather an abnormal and unhealthy, haughty perception of oneself as such an idol that no one has a real need for anyone else. Classical psychologists' paradigms conceptualize narcissist individuals as necessarily, they say it all comes from insecurity. I mean, we know that insecure people who unconsciously compensate for their underlying low self-esteem. And that's what the braggadocio is about. The person that I know that is a malignant narcissist, like, wrote a whole legal document about his accomplishments. And it was all inappropriate. Like, that's not even what he was supposed to be doing. But he was like, this is who I am. Don't you know who I am? And it was just very, very bizarre and very ongoing about these are the people that I know, and this is the person that I am. And it just, so much spoke about the neurotic narcissist personality, but it does make for good storytelling. So today, although we know that self-centered people who really believe in their superiority through and through, such individuals are far more character disoriented than are neurotic, and their infiltrated views of themselves are not as anxious compensation, but rather a sincere belief, and they can be a monumental challenge to deal with, work with, and live with. So like I said, what we're talking about from the storytelling point of view and making things interesting by thinking of these mindsets from a storytelling point of view. But anyway, in the end, it says that narcissistic, and I'm going to wrap it up or have a few more minutes, narcissism becomes particularly malignant, meaning dangerous, harmful, and they also say incurable, when it goes beyond mere vanity and excessive self-focus. Malignant narcissists not only see themselves as superior to others, but believe that others are relatively worthless, expendable, and justifiably exploitable. The narcissistic or the malignant narcissist that I'll be building a story on definitely fit into those categories of really thinking nothing of the people that he knew and believing that he could use those people for his own ends to whatever degree we needed, which is what I said about 50 Cent and his character in Power. It is almost impossible for a person with such a shallow feelings and such haughtiness to really care about others or to form a conscience with any other qualities we typically associated with humane attitude, which is why most researchers and thinkers on the topic of psychopathology think these individuals don't have a conscience. So that is our video on malignant narcissists from the point of view of storytelling, and how it is that you need to use research when you're telling your stories so that you can go deeper and beyond the surface thinking right there. We can all tell in a story right this, but what about when you lift it up and tell a story from down there and bring it up? And this is what the person was thinking. And so that also leads to unpredictability of a story. And so you think, oh, well, if it's a malignant narcissist, what does it do? If it's a narcissist, what does it do? If it's self-centered, what does it do? And then what is so then you can think about characters in terms of the pathology. So that will end this video in terms of character building and some of the ways to do it. Thank you from Right for Freedom. Again, my name is Jerry Hudson. See ya next time. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.